In today's show, we're talking about artificial intelligence and its impact on photography. Hey everyone, welcome into Magnolia Photography SC. I'm Jeff House and I'm a wildlife photographer in Charleston, South Carolina. We have what I consider to be a very interesting show today. We're going to be talking about the wonderful world of artificial intelligence, or AI, as it's commonly referred to. And we're going to talk about its impact on photography, as well as wildlife photography, of course. But stay with me through this entire show, because what I really am interested to hear are your thoughts and opinions on this topic. I'm always interested to see what people's perspectives are, and I think the different perspectives that come from artificial intelligence and how it relates to photography, just something I find fascinating. So I would deeply appreciate if you would, again, listen to this video in its entirety and then share your thoughts and comments underneath the video in the comments section. Let's talk about artificial intelligence for a minute, right? From a global perspective, in other words, outside of the world of photography. It's advancing, and it's advancing rapidly. Matter of fact, there are many people who have lost their livelihoods due to the integration of artificial intelligence. That's a pretty scary thought, if you ask me. Now, many of you out there might be thinking, well, I don't really care about AI. You know, my job is not something that AI can do or can take over. So I feel, like I'm in a situation where I'm pretty much immune to the effects of AI. And maybe that's true. Maybe you have a very unique job in which AI won't be able to take it over. But I think that if we have that thought, we might be kind of short-sighted, because I think that AI can be implemented in many different ways where it can severely impact our jobs. Maybe it doesn't eliminate your job altogether, but maybe AI is able to do 50% of the work that you do, or 75% of the work that you do. So you may still have a position, but your skill set is going to be greatly diminished. What does that mean for your salary? If you're making $150,000 a year now and you've got a very specialized job, and suddenly AI can come in and do that job at least 50%, what do you do if they drop your salary to 75% now? Or 50% now, and all of a sudden you're making $75,000 instead of $150,000. These are all possibilities that are on the table. None of us really know where it's going. But I think AI is amazing technology, and it's very intriguing, and it's very interesting. And we could sit here and come up with 1,000 adjectives to describe it. But I also think it's very dangerous and very scary, because none of us know what the future is going to hold. None of us know what that's going to mean for our livelihoods and our well-beings. What's going to happen to us? Will we see it in our lifetime, depending on what your age is? These are all things that go through my mind, and I'm assuming that, it's usually a safe bet that if you're thinking about it, other people are thinking about it too. So I'd like to know what you think AI is going to do as far as a global perspective. But we aren't here to solve the world's problems. We aren't here to talk about all sorts of different job markets. We're here to talk about photography specifically. Here's the thing about AI when it comes to photography that I think is scary. One, there have already been photographers who have felt the effects of AI and have become extinct due to AI. Yes, already affecting the world of photography. And this was happening years ago. This isn't something that happened yesterday. This was happening years ago. And I want you to keep this in mind, right? AI is in its infancy stages. And even a few years ago, AI was greatly struggling. It didn't have the same problems, 2-3 years ago that it does today. 3 years ago, you could go into Photoshop or any other AI generating website like Midjourney, Photoshop. You can create AI images, 100% AI images now. But you would go in, and basically what you do, if you're not familiar with this, you go in and there's a search box that you can type in, and you basically punch in the words of the image that you're looking to create. So maybe you would go in and you would say, picture of a man and woman embracing in a kiss on a beach. Something like that, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. You put in your search criteria for the image you're looking to create, and what'll happen is you'll get a series of images. If you don't like those, you can generate more, and you just keep going through that process, right? You just keep, no, I don't like those. Hit generate. It'll generate a new series. Do you like any of those? No, whatever. Keep going until you find the one that you want, right? The one that you like, the one that you want to use for your project or whatever you're working on. But what was happening even 3 years ago, 2 years ago, is you would put in that man and woman on a beach kissing, right? Embracing, and you would get their pictures back. And one, if not both of the people would have an arm on the wrong side of the body, or you would look at their hands and there were 6 or 7 fingers, right? It was a dead giveaway that it was an AI generated image. There was also a lot of issues with faces. Many times the people would come out and they almost looked like a demon or something. It was very odd, very weird. Eyes were weird. So there was all these weird things happening, but AI is advancing so quickly that in about a span of 6 months or so, the creators behind the AI, right, the people working on this behind the scenes, had essentially eliminated most of these issues in 6 months. Keep in mind now, there have been technological advances in our world that have taken years to advance as much as AI did in 6 months. That is scary. That is really scary. And now it's gotten to the point where people are just abusing AI, and especially in the world of photography, that's really what we're focused on, right? But people are abusing the technology of AI and posting images in photo contests and different things and claiming it's their image when really it was AI generated. And it's become a big problem. And it's become such a big problem that I know myself and I know many other photographers, because I follow a lot of photographers on YouTube myself, they're all saying, I can't help it, but I look at an image now and I immediately think, what's fake about this? Is this real? Right? That's where our mind has shifted to at this point. We don't believe anything we see anymore. And really, we do need to question everything. And AI is becoming more and more of a problem. But I do applaud sites like Tony and Chelsea Northrup, who have talked about AI on their channel quite a bit and have talked about implementing in some sort of system. And Tony goes into it in greater detail in his videos, but implementing some sort of system that automatically would flag an image for being AI. Apparently there are things, it's beyond my technological scope, but there are things that you could do to flag an image as this is bullshit, essentially. This isn't a real image. And what kind of got me thinking about this whole conversation today was I was looking very recently at an advertisement for a photography contest that had to do with wildlife photography and birds in water. And so I was thinking about maybe joining and entering, and I was looking at the rules of the competition, and it's really funny because with wildlife photography, generally speaking, when you enter a photo into a photo contest, you can only do very limited editing, and they will specifically call out what you can and cannot do. But wildlife photography is held to a pretty strict standard as far as you can't do this, you can do this, and so on down the line, to keep the image, I guess, with more realism, right? Closer to how you captured the photo than not, right? We look at other photos like wedding photos or other genres, and a lot of these are edited to an amazing degree. Things removed, things taken out, all sorts of different things going on in those types of photos. But they try to keep wildlife photography, again, very natural, right? Which makes sense. I get that. And some editing is allowed, but it just got me thinking as I was reading the instructions, how many people will probably try to submit some sort of AI image and try to pass it off as their own. And I think that that's a real possibility in our current state with how we're addressing real images versus AI generated. So, what do you guys think when it comes to this? Because I see such a mind shift in people overall. The thing that I think of, because I do headshots, is even on Facebook, right? If you're going through your feed, you're going to see there's a company, I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but I see it a lot. And there's a company out there with an app for AI headshots, right? You take a picture with whatever camera you want, your cell phone, your regular camera, what have you, and you pop it into their app and it will spit out headshots for you. And I'm always curious. I always read. And I actually snapped on somebody the other day in the comments because this stuff is like a huge pet peeve to me, because as a photographer, I understand the value of having a real photographer. And now, of course, someone could make the argument, well, having that opinion is kind of self-serving, isn't it? Of course, you see the value in being a photographer, right? You want people to pay you for your services. I guess you could make that argument, but I truly do believe in what I've always done as a photographer. I believe that I provide a value that you're never going to get from AI. And if you don't believe this and you think, well, headshots is pretty easy, I want you to check out a guy. You may have heard of him, you may not. Peter Hurley. Peter Hurley is kind of the headshot guru, kind of the best headshot photographer in the world. He's based out of New York City, but he has this technique of interacting with people that you're not going to get from AI ever. And it's kind of a philosophy or an approach that I've used in my headshot photography. And it's stupid stuff, right? It's a way that you communicate with the person in front of you that's standing in front of your camera to get their essence, to bring them and their personality to the surface, right? Because most people feel awkward standing in front of your camera, especially headshots, because they're standing there. There's all this lighting on them. You're not too far from them with your camera. It's a very intimidating situation. But it's stupid things that you would say to them, like, and it's funny because it's completely unexpected. They don't expect any of this from you, but you might say something like, hey, give me your best facial expression when you smell ointment or when you think about ointment, right? I mean, stupid stuff. But I'm telling you, man, in the moment, it gets a laugh. Or, hey, tell me the most expensive thing you ever shoplifted, right? Because people like, what? Right? They get that expression of like, wait a minute, what? And then it hits them what you said, and they laugh, right? And as a headshot photographer, what you're doing is you're there right behind the camera, right? It all seems very casual, but they laugh. And right as they get to the ending moment of that laugh, that's the part where the best smile comes out or the best facial expression comes out. And boom, you're on it taking those photos. AI cannot recreate that. That's real emotion. That's real interaction. There's no way AI is recreating that. And most people don't know how to take a picture. Most people are rigid. They're stiff. They stand in front of the camera with the fakest, cheesiest smile that they have, and popping that into an AI generator. Well, go ahead if that's your thing. But I see so many people doing that. And I look at the comments on Facebook to this app, and I scratch my head, because this is what I really want to know from you guys. Like, do you share these thoughts? Because I can't, and I don't understand it. And so it's really difficult for me. But I see people, because I think part of the problem is we've become a society who has shifted in our mindsets in many different ways. One of them is we don't value anything anymore. We don't value quality. We live in the world where everything is good enough. Well, that's good enough. And I think part of the problem is we're on social media. We're bombarded by images every day. I think we've kind of become desensitized to what good photography is, what a good photo is. I see stuff online and people are like, oh my God, that's gorgeous. That's amazing. That's stunning. That's whatever. What, right? And I'm like, this is crap. This is actually crap. And yet people just accept this as the norm. And you can't control that, I suppose. But I think this is why we're seeing apps like AI headshots, right? And why people don't value a quality professional headshot. And I always kind of argued this point throughout my wedding career, right? There's people who want to be photographers, but they won't invest in a website, right? They're the Facebook photographer who, come hire me, pay me $4,000. I don't have a website. I only have a social media page because it's free. So hire me. And I always used to say, if someone can't invest $200 or $300 a year to promote themselves and have a professional website, then why should someone pay you $4,000 or $3,000 to photograph their wedding? You don't even believe in yourself enough to have a $200 to $300 website. That is peanuts over the course of a year. That is peanuts. And it's something that you need to have as a professional photographer. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That is it. It's a professional image. It's a business. And if you want people to treat you like it's a business, then you need to act like it. So I used to say that all the time. But I think to myself, with these people doing these AI headshots, right? If you can't invest $300 or $400 or whatever the cost is, right? The better the photographer, typically the more you pay. That's generally a good rule. You get what you pay for. But if the average headshot in your area is going for $300 and you think that that's too much to pay to get a job that might pay you $70, $80, $90 or more, $100,000 a year for the job, why should they hire you? You're not even investing in yourself. Why should they invest in you too? I think those are interesting thoughts, and that's kind of how I see a lot of this. But I look at the comments, and that's all people are talking about in these AI headshots. Oh, this was, I got 20 photos, but only one or two really looked like me. Okay, so you're going to get a headshot that doesn't even look like you? That doesn't make sense to me. And you get one or two? Well, hopefully you like it. But people were complaining that, it's good enough. Those are the words you hear all the time. It's good enough. Good enough for who? Good enough for a potential employer? Yeah, if you're just using a picture for your social media account, then yeah, it's good enough, right? It's a real small image. You can't really see any detail in it. It looks like you. It's good enough for that. But if you're using this as a professional headshot, it's not good enough, I assure you. It's not good enough. And people complain about the cost. They're like, well, it's a lot better than paying a professional photographer $300 or $400 for a headshot. Everyone has gotten so cheap now because of this good enough mentality. So I went on there one day and I said, as a professional photographer, it's being a professional photographer is running a business and it costs money to do so. And those are why the prices are the prices. But I suppose you will go into work on Monday and you will tell your boss, hey, I'm working for free this week. Don't worry about paying me. Because you're just such a kind, thoughtful person, and you're okay not being paid for the work you do too, right? Needless to say, I never got a response back from any of the people that made those comments, because I would have to imagine that any normal person with half a brain would go, oh, hell, yeah, it's kind of a good point. I really don't have an argument there. I don't work for free, but I'm expecting everyone else to because I want a headshot. This is the problem that we have with AI today, right? And these are the problems that we're going to see. Now, I'm interested to see, what photography do you like? Do you think it'll be impacted by AI? Like I said, there are already photographers who have lost their livelihood because of AI. People in fashion photography and food photography and stuff like that. Yeah, you can recreate a lot of those things in AI, and companies, because they are all about saving money, are going to forego the photographer because they can do an AI image and they can do it faster and they can do it cheaper. Doesn't mean that it's necessarily good, but it'll be good enough for them, and they will sacrifice a lot of the quality for the fact of saving money, right? That's what companies are all about today. So I think that's interesting. But what about wildlife photography, guys? Where do you think AI is going to go when it comes to wildlife photography? Are we going to see the photographers working for National Geographic and other publications like this, are they going to start losing their jobs? Because when you think about it, right, all National Geographic really needs to do is go into AI, and maybe they're focusing their that current issue on a specific animal. Maybe it's bears, well, or maybe it's a special tropical bird. You can get these AI images out there. I mean, you can get beautiful images, beautiful looking images of these birds and these different things as AI. You really don't need to pay the photographer to travel to this location, pay the photographer themselves, pay for their accommodations, all these things, when you could simply type in the animal and get all sorts of different versions. Now, I don't think that's the way to go, right? I think there is something about the photographer going out for National Geographic into that environment and capturing that bird in real time, in real life. And then there's an article that comes out about it. That's meaningful to me. But maybe it's because I'm a photographer and I see photography from a different light. But those are important things to me. I don't want to see a world of AI images. To me, that loses all sorts of value. But it would be in line with how a lot of people think these days with it's good enough. I don't need a National Geographic photographer to show me the picture of a toucan. I'm fine with an AI image because, quite honestly, I don't even know the difference. What do you guys think? This is where I think I want to end the video. It's a little bit of a rant because this gets me fired up. I think that AI can be useful in many ways, but I don't want to personally see photography be impacted. And maybe you think, hey, I only do wildlife photography as a hobby. But my mind starts to go to this. If everything becomes AI in photography, does that mean in the future, camera manufacturers will stop making cameras? Will there not be a big enough demand for cameras because everything has shifted to AI? And now the new form of taking a picture is your imagination by typing into a search box. Who knows if that will happen? That might seem absolutely ridiculous right now to think about. That thought may be impossible to consider. You might be thinking, dude, that is so far off the reservation. It's not even funny. That'll never happen. But we never thought that AI would be doing what it's doing today, even a few years ago. And it's happening, guys, and it's moving fast, moving very, very rapidly. And we don't know what the future holds or where it's going to go or how it's going to impact all of our livelihoods going forward. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that we need to get back to a photographer and the value that a photographer brings, the interaction with the people, and not some stupid AI algorithm that produces 10 images and at least you got one that looks like you? I mean, obviously it's going to get better, right? The technology will get better and all of them will look like you soon. But what do you think? I want to know your thoughts on this subject because I think this is, again, very controversial, very interesting, very intriguing. I want to know where you think AI is going to go and how it's going to impact photography and how it might even impact you as a photographer, whether you do it professionally or whether you do it casually. Hey, thanks so much, guys, for stopping by. If you liked this video, found it useful, found it interesting, please consider liking the video and sharing it as well. And be sure to comment below. And I thank you all for taking some time out of your day to spend it with me. And I look forward to seeing you guys all in the next video. But until then, please take care.